All right, so first thing I want to remind you of, everybody, the video should be on now. Please remember, you have a choice of discussion boards every week, and you can go back and forth between Hershey to Glickman, but you only have to do one per week. So make sure that you know that. We went over your task stream last week. We've gone over competency folio. If your principal needs their, please remember, if your principal needs their task stream username and password, to email Dr. Shellman. That's dshellman@Gardner-Webb. Those are unique identifiers not assigned by us now. So you did your good discussion boards this week. They were excellent. I had let's see. No, you do those when you want to. I'm not going to cover those in class. Those are outside things. Okay. Just make sure that yours is working and that you can get in and put yours in and you can read others. And I think this one shows that I think that's happening. Sometimes I don't require you to post or to comment on other people's posts usually, but you should be able to see everybody's posts. And if that's not happening, I need to know. There's sometimes a glitch in Blackboard. So I think by looking at this one, and we had some good comments this week. Some folks did a really good job getting the point on these, and so I'm very happy with the work that was done on these this week. Again, you know, you got to prioritize your time. I do not do that mandatory turn in, or it's only available for a week and then you can't turn it in late, or any of that. You need to decide, because you know there's a hard deadline on evidence artifact work, and if you can't get to this right now and you've got time to work on that, then you need to make that a priority. You know, so don't, you know, no, you don't, but I like to read these, and so when you get them in there, but I wanted to remind you, you choose one, you do it on your own, you send it in, you can read everybody else's. If you choose to work evidence artifacts now and later in the semester after your deadlines are passed for task stream, you want to catch up, that's fine with me. I do not have a late turn in or block it out or any of that business. You're allowed to go in and do that anytime you want to do it. All right, the weekly schedule. Let me share. Let's look and see where we are this week. Show all windows. That's undo. There was another one somewhere. There it is. Share screen. All right, this week is motivation and behavior. Glickman discussion boards 3 and 4. All right, so that's what we're doing this week. And so I had several things. I had several things on our board for you this week if you wanted to review those. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these tonight. I'm just going to kind of hit the high notes. Good to great is about, and I think I commented on one of the discussion boards this week, I think it was Christie's, but that's the point of leadership, is to move from good to great. That's the point of transformational leadership, where you inspire, motivate, encourage, work with, as opposed to transactional power, which is intimidate, persecute, boss, whatever. That's more of a management style. We're looking at a leadership style. This Hertzberg motivation, there's a lot to read there. It's not that long an article, but he speaks of that, and he was the kind of the father of motivational theory. What's important to know is this piece right here. Job satisfiers deal with factors involved in doing the job. Job dissatisfiers deal with the factors which define the job context. What does that mean for educational leaders? I will summarize that for you. What it means is this: principals cannot be satisfiers. You can be a dissatisfier, but you cannot be a satisfier. The job itself. Well, hello there. Can you hear me? Lorraine, are you there?
I am.
Oh, welcome. Everybody can see you on the screen.
Oh, no.
Well, we're glad you joined us this evening.
Thank you.
Everything going well?
It's going.
It's going. All right. Well, then you stay with us as long as you can, and we'll press on for a while. I'm not going to talk too long tonight. But what I'm covering now is Hertzberg's motivational theories and why that's important for educational leaders to understand that you cannot be a job satisfier. The job satisfaction comes from doing their job. But you can be a dissatisfier if you make doing their job untenable, not fun, or highly stressful. You know, some principals believe that they can be satisfiers, that teachers come to work for them every day. Don't flatter yourself. Don't flatter yourself. But the important part to remember about that is you, in many ways, are the determinant of the working conditions that they have. So you can't be their satisfier, but you can be a dissatisfier. And what happens when you have dissatisfied teachers? We see it in CMS at a higher rate than anywhere else in the Southeast. What happens when we have dissatisfied teachers? They leave in droves. What's wrong with that? We'll get some new people that are excited to be here. Except what's wrong? What we talked about last week in terms of the growth curve of new teachers. How long does it take for them to get where they can find the door and not wet their pants most days? It takes about 4 years to become cost effective. And if you're always turning teachers over in the first 4 years, you're getting the worst of them, and that's all you're ever providing. That's why, teacher retention strategies are important, because you can't satisfy them. It's about the job, but you can certainly satisfy them. And what do dissatisfied people do in the modern world? They leave. They leave. Now, to that end, so that's on our board for the week. If you want to read that whole document, it's wonderful. But that's the nugget that we're working off of tonight, that we've got to make our schools livable, where our folks will stay with us. All right. To that end, I have another document here. HR recommended strategies for teacher retention. This is standards for school executives, number 4, human resource managers. What can principals do to keep high flyers at their schools? Top teachers who experience 2 or more of these retention strategies plan to keep teaching their schools nearly twice as long, 2 to 6 more years. All right. Provide me with regular positive feedback. Right off that good to great last week, isn't it? Remember the good to great last week? Be positive, give feedback often. Help me identify my areas of development. Give me critical feedback about my performance informally. Recognize my accomplishments publicly. Remember, recognition was on that list last week. Inform me that I am high performing. Reward and praise me. Identify the opportunities for path for teacher leader roles. What did we talk about in 602 with the APTEL? The whole idea is to get them on that first level of becoming a school-wide leader. And what is that? Teaching other teachers. That's what the whole APTEL model is about. It's a staff development model. It's a teacher retention model where you have your best teachers, your high flyers, giving them the opportunity to become school-wide leaders. First opportunity is teach others, Marzano. Second, Do you remember the litany of what the hierarchy is first? First, in terms of the Holy Grail, the hierarchy of being empowered as a teacher leader in the school. First one was teach other teachers. What was the second one? School improvement plan. Be involved in the development of the school improvement plan. What's the third one? Be involved in curriculum development. Fourth one, be involved in resource development. And the fifth and the Holy Grail of being an empowered teacher leader school-wide is to be involved in personnel decisions. So that's the Holy Grail. And it can't just be eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or it can't just be it's Brandy's turn. There has to be a succession. There has to be a system in place where principals understand that you got this great teacher, we'll give them the opportunity to do staff development with the not so great teachers. And then we'll go from there, we'll go to, we'll let them be involved, we'll assign them a section to head a section of the school improvement plan. And so on and so, it has to be systematic. It can't just be random. Oh, she's, Madonna's a pretty good teacher. Let me think of something I could have her do. No, there has to be a system in your school where everybody understands the system. Everybody understands that hierarchy. Everybody understands what the process is, that it's not random, that you actually have a plan. Put me in charge of something important. That's generally, as I just said, step number 2. That's generally when I give you a section of the school improvement plan, and you form a PLC or a group, and you folks, I turn that whole section over to you. That's something important. Provide me with access to additional resources for my classroom. So those are retention strategies. They feed right back into that good to great. They fall right out of transformational leadership as opposed to transactional leadership. Remember, transactional leaders have very high turnover rates. Transformational leaders do not, because these are the things that they do. I have people all the time say to me, all right, we have these inventories for transformational, but what do transformational leaders do differently that retain teachers? Right here, this list. This is what they do differently. Now, obviously, there's subsets to this list. We got to go back to our Whitaker work. That list of 5 teacher empowerment activities I just gave you comes from who? Todd Whitaker. How do we determine who our best classroom teachers are? That list of 9 comes from who? Robert Marzana. We learned that in semester 2 when we did the APTEL. See, you should be putting it all together now while we had you do the things that we had you to do along the way. Now in 605, you're supposed to be smart enough now and well coached enough, or well trained enough, or well taught enough that you start putting all this stuff together. Oh, that's why they taught me that. This is why I need that. Biggest crisis in public education today for school administrators at the building level is teacher turnover. Let me say that again. Biggest crisis in public education today, not just in North Carolina. Biggest crisis in public education today for building level administrators is getting and keeping good people. In many cases, the keeping is harder than the getting. And they wonder, you have people who are the old authoritative power people and wonder why nobody wants to work for them. So we have that document, and I can get out of that and you share. I've got a let me go back to the desktop here. I have to open a couple of PDFs here. Let me get out of that one. Get out of that one. All right, so this Hemrick empowerment article here, Marty Hemrick was superintendent up in, I think, Wilkes. I think he's retired now. He's not that old, but he got his time in and he retired. But he was a doctoral student with us at Gardner-Webb. And he worked to write an article, a journal article, for with Dr. Urey and Dr. Shellman. and I have included it here. And you don't have to spend a lot of time with it either, but it's a really good article. Correlation between perceived teacher empowerment and perceived sense of teacher efficacy. Marty Hemrick, Dr. Uri, and Dr. Shillman. Basically, what that article says is that when you empower teachers school-wide, they do a better job in the classroom, and vice versa. That if you give them a way to move up, even as a teacher, this was a nationwide. This was a really big deal nationwide. This article. Correlations between perceived teacher empowerment. And sense of teacher self-efficacy, how effective and how happy they were in the building, and how good a job they were doing in their classroom. And it works both ways. The correlation, the tail, it turns each way. So you must find ways to empower your teachers, and we know what those ways are. Okay. I just read you that list. All right, retention strategies, transformational teachers, inspiring leaders, inspire and motivate. What I want to do with you, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time online with you tonight, I'm going to let you work. What I want to do with you is I want you to go to class session 10. I just hit it there so y'all wouldn't see it before tonight. Go to class session 10. Pull up which one do I want you to do? The Transformational Leadership Survey. I want you to take that right now. And then we'll talk about it. I want you to take this survey right now. You might have to do it with pencil and paper, but go ahead and work on this survey. It's Lorraine, you can see that on your screen.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, the Transformational Leadership Survey. There's 18 questions. I would just number it 1 and then put my score on it. If you'll take that survey, I'll give you about 10 minutes to do that, and then we'll look at the results of that, and we'll be done with my part for tonight. I promised I went too long last week. Miss Jackson, we about done? You done? All right. All right, what were your scores?
Total
Yeah,
64.
64. That's good. Anybody beat 64? You got the 54? Well, that would be kind of normal. That would be kind of normal in terms of, as you move into that role, you would expect for the number to go up. Did you find anything about yourself that you didn't know?
Delegation.
Oh, I'm a 0 in delegation. I can tell you that now. I'm proud of it. I'm a 0. I'm an operations guy. What you learn in public school administration is you can delegate the task, but not the responsibility. And that's always what comes back and bites you as an operation person. Things don't get done that you delegate. And so you have to be, if you're low on that one, I don't consider that to be a bad thing for a transformational leader. I'm probably a negative on that one. Because I always used to say, you know, folks I work with, it's all fun and games till somebody gets their eye put out. And then they're looking for somebody to sue who didn't do what they were supposed to do. I told you last week, you know, there's an issue right here in town right now with a principal that turned over fundraising to the PTA. The money got gone, and now it's not going well for her. That she didn't steal it, she didn't forge the check, she didn't do any of that, but they're getting her for failure to exercise control. She delegated it to somebody, and they didn't, and it went wrong. And they're not claiming that she illegally delegated it. They're not claiming that she stole the money or could have done anything different. It was, you delegated this, it went wrong, you're the leader, you failed to exercise control. So if you're low on, my point was, if you're low on this one, on delegation, that's not a bad thing. You have to exercise some control as the leader. You have to be the adult. You have to be the one that says, no, you can't, just like a parent. You understand that sometimes. And that's the role that you have to play. Now, if you're low on this one, you got problems. Social. People won't want to work for you. So that's the one that you can't be low on, is social. You don't have to be everybody's best friend, but if you're low on social, you're going to have problems with people wanting to work for you. But if you're high on this one, the chances you're going to get axed in CMS are very high. If like Brandy said, don't trust people, and you can't. In large districts, in large bureaucracies, you can't, especially with the turnover and the coming and going. People that this isn't a small community where everybody knows everybody. You know, to use a Ron White euphemism, we've met. You know, he grew up in a town of 17 or whatever. You know, guy down the street, we've met. Yeah, that doesn't happen here. Rarely do you know anybody that you grew up with in a work setting in this town. Rarely. That imposes a different set of leadership conditions upon you. You got to be social, but you got to be very careful about delegation in this town. Now, if we were in, you know, with my buddy Todd, superintendent up in Madison, but Mars Hill, I mean, they recognize when a stranger just drives through town. I don't know how they get their tag on. There's no stoplight. That's a different story up there. You can trust people there. That is not the case in urban areas. In large population centers, that is not the case. So if you're low on that one, you can give yourself a pass. But if you're very low throughout this one, then you need to maybe rethink the role of leadership. I would suggest there is a good article, and I have it actually on our board tonight. Imagine that. A very good article that might help you in your journey to be more transformational in your leadership thinking. And it's on week 2. Um, that's not it. That's a little questionnaire that you can do on your own time. I won't bother you, but I found this to be a really good article. I've used this with one of my doctoral students. If I can get it to come up.
Dr. Lam, can I share with you the issue that I'm encountering? And maybe you can advise me.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get back to share screen and get back to my desktop here. There we go. And then get back to week 2. And I'll finish this thought and then I'll be right with you. All right, right here. This is a really good article. And if your score is below the cutoff, I would recommend that you read this article. If you're below the 54, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. I'm just having a little trouble loading here tonight. Yeah, here it is. This is basically, this is what I like about this. This is not from the leader's perspective. This is based on teacher. The people you're going to be leading is based on their perspective, their perceptions about the leader. So if you scored lower than you think that you ought to have scored lower, again, we'll give you a pass on the delegation area if you're here in Charlotte. But if you scored lower than you think you do, I would recommend you read this article. It's not a real long article, that you read that. Okay? All right. All right. Questions that you have for me, Tanea?
Well, the question is, well, in my position where I am now, where I'm still like teacher / board, when does when I ask a teacher to do something, when does my suggestion become a directive? And how many times do I have to keep saying the same thing? Because there's one teacher in particular, and then I just heard comments to other people, well, she used to be nice. I mean, I did the same thing 4 or 5 times, like, make sure you're at work on time. 6:40, but you come in at 7:15.
Well,
things like
that's
that.
one of those things, again, that's one of those things that, after the second time, you're just going to have to write her up.
Yeah.
I mean, and she perceives that as not being nice. That's okay. But remember, you can't delegate to her the authority to come in when she wants to.
Right.
Because you're held accountable for that.
Right.
And so you don't have that option. You can't just say, I can let you do that. As the leader of the organization, you can't allow somebody not to come to work and for kids to be unsupervised. And so that's not the kind of thing that we're talking about. You have to enforce the rules.
Okay, well, I'll give you another example. She was supposed to label all the laptops on the car Monday. It was now Wednesday. I ask her every day.
But see, she is your outlier. She's the one that you just need to fire.
Well, I told her by end of day, I wanted it done.
Well, that's what I mean.
Send her email because, literally, she sat there all day.
Well, that's what I'm telling you is she's not the employee that we're trying to motivate and lead and inspire. She's just there to get a check, and she's going to do whatever she can or not do. I mean, she's made that clear. If she comes in late, she doesn't follow directives, and that person just needs to hit the goal. But it's not her opinion that matters. It's your opinion that matters. I mean, you can document that she's not doing her work, and she's coming in late, and she's, adding no value to the organization. Now, my suspicion is you could pull her aside and talk to you as old as I am, and it won't matter. You have some people in organizations that are just non-compliant. All large bureaucratic organizations have them. They're just there to get a check. And that you would ask them to do something while they're there is an anathema to them. That makes them angry. And you're not ever going to convince them that whatever you have for them to do is something they ought to have to be doing. It's not going to happen. I mean, if it's somebody who came in late, a one-off kind of thing, that'd be one thing. But somebody who shows up late every day, you already know that person is, is not a willing participant. And then when you assign them things to do, and they got better direct, and where you can measure it objectively, they did it or they didn't do it, and they don't do it. There is no, that person doesn't need to be on your bus.
She just got tired.
And,
I'm trying to work with her.
but
She's not going anywhere for a while. I mean, she's only been teaching 5 years. She can't stop her
but she needs to go back. You need to teach her that the road goes both ways.
Right. So I am starting to put things, more than.
You need to
verbally.
start documenting. You need to start documenting what she's doing and not doing. The bad things she's doing and the good things she's not doing. You're going to have to go that way. I mean,
And I started.
that's part of it. But see, now the thing that you got to understand is she may not like you, but the other teachers that you work with, that may inspire them that, there are standards here and we're not going to have to take her work on. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about being a dissatisfier. We have an employee. We got 6 of us in this room. We got work for 6 people, but one of us doesn't have to do the work. The other 5 are angry. Now, the one that we let not do anything, she might be happy, but that's not the behavior that we want to reward. We want to reward the 5 that are working. And so when you think about it, we talk about inspire and motivate, and do those kinds of things, and satisfaction and dissatisfaction. Again, as the principal, I can't make you satisfied with your job, but I can make you dissatisfied if I'm not enforcing the rules for everybody and you're having to do twice as much work because Chrissy's not doing any work. So what you've got to understand is this leadership is systemic, it's organizational, it's bigger than just your relationship with individuals. And if you don't enforce the rules on her, then others have to pick up the slack, and others are burdened by her not doing her part. That goes back to that job dissatisfaction. I have to come into work today and do my work, and this person over here who's getting paid too and not doing anything, that's the job dissatisfaction that we're talking about. And you cause that as a principal, not the person that didn't do the work. They don't blame them. They blame you. So
I just wanted to know when was enough is enough.
The second time on being late's enough.
Oh, okay. I just didn't want to be like too headstrong. Okay.
I mean, we run school based on a clock. The buses show up at the same time. The bells ring at the same time every day.
Well, our church is a little different at the academy. Yeah. She shouldn't take that for granted.
No, but you shouldn't just not show up for work and come when you want to just because the structure is a little bit different. There are some, there's some basic tenets of schooling that are across the board. You got to show up sober and clean clothes. You got to come every day, pretty much the same time and before the kids get there. There's some basics in this business that some non-negotiables. Thank you. That's an excellent point. All right, Lorraine, it's 6 o'clock. I went 2 minutes over. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Any questions you have on anything I've covered tonight?
No.
All right, I'm going to sign off. If we don't get to see you next week, we'll Zoom with you again. It was good to see you tonight. So everybody say bye to Lorraine. Bye. Bye-bye. Jason, if you're watching, if you're with us, if you're watching, I'll talk to you soon too.